This is the second day of the Tennessee General Assembly, and more than 160 bills have been filed in the House of Representatives. And one of them could open the door to a recall of the Memphis-Shelby County School Board. I had a chance to speak with the sponsor, Representative G.A. Hardaway. Representative, let's talk about what you have proposed, House Bill number 92, involving a recall vote. In layman's term, what is this? What's the bill all about?
Well, it's simple, and I'll caution the listeners until you actually read the bill. There's a lot of social media out there that's talking about it, but the content of the bill is important, not just the description or the abstract of the bill. And I'll talk with you today about the content of the bill. This bill sets in place enabling legislation. Enabling means for it to be active, that it would take 2/3 of the vote of the county commission for county officials. That would be the mayor, the county clerks, the county commissioners themselves, register of deeds, and the trustee, etc. All of the county officials. If it was to apply to the city officials, the city council would have to enable this legislation, which means they would have to cast a vote of 2/3 of the members of the city council to put it into effect for the city council members, for the city mayor. There's a clerk or two that's under part of the city governance. So that's the important part to remember. The other part to remember is that once it's in place, any citizen of the jurisdiction of that particular elected official can pull a petition, have it signed by 2/3 of the voters who actually voted in that last election regarding the election of the elected official in question. 2/3 of those voters would have to sign a petition saying, we want to reconsider and have another election. Those are the important things to remember.
So, Representative, it sounds like you're saying with the citizens of either Memphis or Shelby County essentially have the final say in this matter?
As they must. We're definitely government of the people, for the people, by the people. And the people have the ultimate say in who's elected and who's retained. If the people aren't happy, then democracy is not being effective. So the goal is to give a tool statewide that would enable these local legislative bodies to put in place something that their citizens of these the various jurisdictions that they could use when they're displeased with their elected officials. Now, some have asked me, well, why not state officials? Simple. State legislators are governed by the state constitution. Our qualifications are governed by the state constitution. And within that constitution, our membership in our respective bodies, House members, our membership in the House is determined by the House. The membership of the senators are determined by the Senate. So that's why state officials are not included in this legislation.
And Representative, before we run out of time here, are we talking about maybe impacting just like, for example, the superintendent, or are we talking about a sheriff? Are we talking about a mayor? We're talking about whom?
Well, we're talking about all the elected officials. The superintendent is an appointed official, but of course, those elected members who she works for, the school board, would definitely be impacted. But I'll emphasize again, we've been talking about this and working on this for years. We've had one version of this that applied to Madison County, but because it had deficiencies in it, it did not meet constitutional muster, and it was ruled unconstitutional by the courts.
And do you think we have, or do you have bipartisan support on this? Where do you think this resolution goes from here?
I know I have bipartisan support. The issues that confront our communities are not Republican, they're not Democrat, they're not Libertarian, etc. They're about Tennesseans.
And Representative, one last thing. How concerned are you about what you are witnessing with the school board and with Dr. Fagans? Have you kind of weighed in one way or the other? Does she need to go? Does she need to stay or what?
That's not my decision. I've had conversation with various school board members. I've had conversation with Dr. Fagans, and I respect the confidentiality of those conversations. And I have an opinion. I've expressed it to everyone individually, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, Doctor, we'll be keeping everybody posted on the situation with Dr. Fagans, the school board, the county commission, and of course, Representative, with your resolution. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. It's all about the children.